Hey everybody, Tom here with Hidden Beats, and today we are talking with Melvin, Texas King. How are you doing?
I'm good. How about you, Tom?
Pretty good. It's a nice day out, so that's always a bonus.
Oh yeah, it's beautiful. So
So we're here today to talk about you, about the band, about music, and kind of figure out just a little bit more about who you are and what you do. But for those who are new, can you give a little intro about yourself?
yeah, sure. My name is Melvin Murray. I play drums in Texas King. Um, we're just a rock band from London, Ontario. And just trying to have some fun and play some music across
Hmm.
the world or wherever we can. And yeah, that's kind of what we do. Yeah.
So how did you start music? Like, how did you get into music?
Oh, for me, I think I recently found the memory that inspired me to play music because I was always blank. It was just like, yeah, I always just played drums since I was 13. But you remember the movie School of Rock?
Hmm.
Okay, there's that montage scene where they're playing Bonzo Goes to Blitzburg or Pittsburgh by the Ramones.
Yeah.
And there's a scene where the drummer, Jack Black, has him studying on TV all these great drummers. There's a clip of like Keith Moon, I think it's Clyde Stubblefield, and one other drummer, and just the way it zoomed up on that kid who's just like watching all these amazing drummers perform, I was like, that's what I want to do, because I was always tapping on the table and stuff. So that kind of sparked it. And then I had saved up some birthday money and then bought myself a $400 drum set, and that's kind of how it all started. And had my first band practice that night with my buddy.
Hmm. I actually was a drummer in high school myself and never really kept it up because couldn't afford to my own drums and then moving around like I was an army brat too, so moving around it was
Oh,
hard to get into things and
yep.
yeah, so but
Wow.
yeah, drumming was always a fun one for me too.
Yeah, drumming's it's such a interesting instrument to me. There's like so much to it. Um so you ended up selling that drum kit?
Yeah, had to get rid of things and cut down so we can hop in a car and move when we needed to.
Wow. Father or mother in the military?
Both were
Or
actually, but
wow.
they separated when I was 2, so I was with my mom and we were moving across Canada multiple times.
Crazy. Wow.
Mhm.
Tour life kind of.
Yeah, I mean, really, it does have
Yeah.
some similarities.
Yeah. Oh, I can only imagine. Wow.
Yeah. So how did you get involved with the band? Like how did Texas King start or form?
Well, the rest of the band, they all met in college. They went to the MIA program at Fanshawe
Okay.
in London, which is a great program. A lot of talented musicians and songwriters, and even techs have studied at that school program. So they all kind of met there, and then they were jamming with another drummer. They actually had two drummers before I came into the picture, and we all kind of met in Pennsylvania through a mutual friend. I was down there with a different band. They were actually performing at this festival called Launch Music Festival, and through that mutual friend, I met them. And around that time, my band had split, and I was kind of doing the hired gun role for like 6 months, and then Phil hit me up and was like, "Hey, do you want to come on the road?" And then I did one tour as a hired gun, and then after that, I joined the band.
Nice. Yeah,
Yeah,
it seems like you guys like to have fun on stage. I was looking at some of the past videos and pictures and things like that.
yeah, yeah. I hope it's speaking for the rest of the guys, but I always joke that we are a punk rock band in playing rock music. So a
Mhm.
lot of us were influenced um, by the Warp Tour kind of scene, where those guys are just crazy. Like bands like Aiden, Silverstein, Seos, and these guys had just incredible stage presence. It was almost chaotic.
Mhm.
And so I've always had that kind of energy with previous bands. And when I got into Texas King, it was like the same sort of thing. It was let's just go have as much fun as possible, just put on a really good show. And that's kind of, like what we like to do.
Yeah, no, it looks fun for sure.
Yeah.
And the main reason we're here to talk today is you guys have a new EP coming out called Capsize, I think it was.
Yep. Capsize. That's correct.
Can you tell me a bit about that, the process behind it?
Um, yeah. So that was a interesting process making that record. We had uh, we had lost a guitar player. He decided he wanted to move on to other things and focus on other parts of his life. And so that record was put together by the three of us. Colin has a bit of writing credit. He helped write Capsize, the initial idea, and Whatever You Break. He was in the room when we had written that one. The way Texas King likes to operate is, man, it's really fun playing with these guys as the drummer too, because I have a lot of respect for the other players in the band in terms of like musicianship. It can Somebody can just start a riff and everyone automatically somehow knows the chord progression and how to just build off it like almost instantly. So a lot of the songs come together in sound checks at shows. So Whatever You Break, that verse was actually kind of formed in Rochester at a venue called Anthology. And then we took it to um, another day. We were writing, kind of wrote the chorus. And then once it came to the EP, it was like, oh, we've got all these ideas. And we were sitting with our producer, Brian Moncars, and he was like, okay, I'm going to pick 3 songs, because we did the EP with 2 different producers, actually 3, if you will. So Moncars did 3 songs, and a guy named Pete Van Helvert and Matt Snell, they did the other 2 songs, which we did the previous EP with. So Brian picked Whatever You Break. That was actually his last pick. He was like, and I don't know, I think I should pick Whatever You Break. And we're like, okay, cool. And then it turned out, it's been doing fairly well. And so, but, we did that EP in 3 different studios. We did the first 3 songs. We laid down the beds in at Bathhouse in Kingston, the
Okay.
Tragically Hip studio,
Yeah.
which was, you're walking through the rooms and there's just so much history. So you're like very inspired all the time.
Hmm.
And, I didn't want to make a mess, because, yeah, you got a rock ghost in there, so,
Yeah.
um, so we did the beds there, which meant like just drums, bass, guitar, and a little bit of vocals, or I think it was all the vocals. And then we did the other 2 songs with Matt Snell at what was the studio called? How am I blanking on this one? Uh, yeah, I'm just blanking on this. Rev?
You'll
One of the nice
remember it
ones.
as soon as we're done this too, and it'll be funny.
Yeah, yeah. It was a very nice studio, and I remember being like a little bit intimidated being in there. Um, because it was a nice room. So yeah, we did the other 2 songs with Pete and Snell, and they had a different approach to producing, which was really cool. What I really liked about Moncars was he wasn't going to just give you the idea. He
Okay.
would say something needs to happen here, and then together you would work out something. He made a
Okay.
couple suggestions. Um, One suggestion that we all were like, I don't know. He said straighten out the chorus in Whatever You Break, because it used to be a bit more bouncy. It was like boom, pa, boom, boom, pa, boom, boom, and he just was like straighten it out. And we're like, oh, I don't know. We played it once. We're like, wow, that's it. That feels way better.
Hmm.
And then Pete and Snell, we got into a rehearsal space originally, and we've just played the songs as they were, and then they had their notes. Hey, change this drum beat, change that guitar part, shorten this, and that's how those songs came together, which is really cool. So they
Hmm.
did, for example, Home. That's the song that's out right now that they have done. It. That's to me one of my favorites off the EP. So,
Yeah.
but that's kind of the process, yeah.
it seems like interesting because you have different aspects and kind of different ways to feel for the tracks.
Yeah, yeah, you kind of, because we were in so many different studios and working with different people, you got just different vibes, different, you know, just different ideas would come out. I kind of like that
Hmm.
um, sort of experience. But yeah,
Now, Texas King has releases dating back to 2013 on Spotify. How do you feel the music evolved from like the self-titled release back then to now?
well, at that time I wasn't in the band, so I came in when Circles was finished. Circles was I joined when we had released the second album. So the first EP was, Jordan used to be Texas King was just Jordan at one point.
Hmm.
So he was just doing like acoustic gigs. Then, he brought on Call In. So it ended, the sound evolved a little bit more, adding some electric guitar leads. And then from what I understand, that's, Phil kind of joined in at that point. So that first EP is very much like a rock band meeting an acoustic sound.
Hmm.
So, but that's just my thoughts looking on the outside inward. Jordan would obviously say something a little bit more, but I can speak to from Chandelier, which is when I joined. Those were the first, that was like the first song that I had played on Chandelier, Giants, and Greatest, to the Changes EP to what we have now. It's just the sound just keeps getting more and more evolved, and just the songwriting I feel like is getting better. We're pretty good at editing ourselves before sending things off to a producer, so I think now the sound is obviously a bit more upbeat, um more rock and roll, I would say. Yeah, it's just got more of a driving force. It's more of a wall of sound with dynamics than what it previously was. I really like this last EP that we've done. I think that's my favorite. Jordan's lyrics are some of the best he's ever written, and he's only getting better. His melodies are just, again, I'm speaking as a musician, watching my another musician, grow, and it's just his melodies are, I really enjoy playing along with them.
Hmm. Like I wrote down on my notes, it seems like it's gotten fuller and it's gotten more purposeful, I guess is another
Yeah,
good way to put it. Like you have your own personal evolutions throughout, and you can feel that through the growth of the music for sure.
yeah, yeah. Well, thanks for saying that. That's what we want. If you're putting out the same record, then well, it all depends what your path is, right? Every band's different.
Hmm. Yeah, and everyone, look at someone like a Linkin Park. They change sounds frequently and try to do different things and upgrade everything that they were doing at the time. So it's nice to see consistency, but also growth as you're doing it.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So, and we've already started writing some of the newer stuff, and I'm really looking forward to that growth step as well too. It's just very fun.
Nice. I'm excited to hear some of that.
Yeah.
What's your thoughts on the music scene these days? We just came out of, COVID, the big pandemic and stuff screwed everyone over a lot, and now it's a flood of music and festivals. And
Oh
what do
yeah.
you
It's I think everyone was cooped up, and that first year, I felt like it was very hard for all us smaller bands to grab any sort of attention, because all the other bigger bands, that's the thing is, with Spotify and all these streaming platforms now, it's, every band is on the same platform as Taylor Swift, as
Mhm.
Drake, as the Rolling Stones. You know what I mean? So you're competing on a much bigger scale as a smaller band. So um, I mean, but we've been used to that since MySpace, so it's just, really the best way to still get yourself out there is playing shows, and the scene is still very healthy in terms of promoters out there that want to grow bands. And I think there's a lot of cool bands coming out of COVID. Um, Friends that are doing well, watching. I just think it's a pretty healthy scene right now.
Mm-hmm. What do you think it takes to stand out with the oversaturation almost of too much music to listen to?
Well, to stand out, honestly, I think standing out, you get the anomalies that come out right out of the gate, and they're somehow just massive. Um, or the song just hits, it just speaks at the right time. You have those, but for, I would say, the working class band, which is most bands, or artists, the best way to stand out is just keep yourself in the game as
Mm-hmm.
long as possible. That 10-year overnight success sort of story that we always hear, there's something special about 10 years. I don't know what happens, but there's a click and things just start moving a little bit faster. My dad mentioned something that was very interesting. I forget who he heard this from, but it's like some sort of idea that if the same amount of effort that you put in your earlier years, you'll get a small result. But the longer that you're in it and your popularity grows, you put in that same amount of effort and you have a much bigger reach at that point. So I think just that 10 years, it takes 10 years to develop your sound that's, unique to yourself.
Mm-hmm.
So you're going to discover a lot about yourself, your bandmates, how the industry works, in those 10 years. So I think that's really the trick to, standing out, is staying in it that long.
Yeah. I mean, that almost sounds, if you think about it, it's like compounding interest in a bank account. You keep on putting the same amount in, but it doesn't really pay off until you hit a certain level. Even though you're still putting the same amount in, it's not really worth it until the end, kind of thing.
Bingo. Yeah, totally, man. And I've seen bands, I think Billy Talent was like 12 years in or something like that. I knew another band, they were 20 years in and now they've achieved the success. But then every now and then you get a band like Ghost and it's the first album and somehow it just connects. Or you get a
Mm-hmm.
Bieber. So I don't know the trick on that one. I think that one is literally just, rolling the dice. So
Yeah, and if it hits, it hits.
yeah, yeah,
For sure.
yeah.
One thing I like to ask people, and you might have an interesting perspective on this, is what do you think is something that should be asked more in an interview scenario that's not asked enough?
Um that's an interesting question. Maybe how, I don't know, you don't want to give too much of business away, but like feel like there's, again, back to that 10-year development, there's a lot of figuring things out on your own. Um so maybe advice on how can you actually make a band work. I don't know, I'm a very big like behind the scenes kind of guy. I like to watch documentaries on, well, how did you make that movie? Oh,
Mm-hmm.
well, that's pretty cool. Maybe questions like that, like mindsets. Well, there we go. Sorry about that, man.
No worries.
Okay, sorry. Yeah, I don't know what happened. I just kind of dropped there.
That's the, story of technology. It happens sometimes.
Oh yeah, yeah. During COVID, this was a regular occurrence.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Um. So yeah, sorry about that, Tom. We're talking about what questions should be asked, sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Um. So yeah, I would say like, yeah, like tour mindset, sort of band advice. How do you really put a band together? and how do you make it work?
Yeah, definitely from a band perspective, there's probably a lot of different things that go on and, you know, a lot of intricacies you have to work out between everyone.
Yeah, totally. Yep.
No, that makes sense. I think that's a good one that a lot of people probably would like to know, and I like that question because it helps me curate more questions for people if I'm having trouble finding them myself, really.
Yeah, yeah, totally. Um, I do think already like your questions have been quite thought out and stuff. Like you asked about the process of the EP, and that's a big one because that's the stuff, you know, I find we really like to talk about is that nerdy. Some people get into the details of like, well, we use this microphone and this setup. Some people will be like, well, I was in this mindset when I wrote this, even down to the drum parts or down to the bass parts. Like I was feeling that this song needed to be bumpier or more jammy, or I don't know,
Yeah,
lots of things like that.
there's a lot that different people take from that for sure.
Mm-hmm.
What's one thing that you like to do to keep yourself grounded outside of music?
Grounded. That's very interesting. That's yeah, that's a good question because we all need grounding because this industry can suck you in
Mhm.
and you can become very obsessed with your career and your place in the thing. I don't know. I like to, you know, spend time with my girlfriend. Um, we like to have coffee in the morning. We like to go um we like to get pastries at the local shop and stuff like that. Hang out with friends. Oh, I see you.
There we go.
Okay. Ah, man, this is nuts. I got full Wi-Fi. I don't know what's going on here.
Mhm. I got most of that anyway, so I can do some editing around that.
Perfect. I used to run a podcast and I was trying to do an interview with Royal Tusk,
Yeah.
and we had this happen. We couldn't even do the interview. It was like
I
one
mean,
of the
I've had some crazy stuff happen before where my whole mic system would die out on me and
wow.
oh yeah.
Wow. That's gnarly. That
Mhm.
sucks.
Well, so we're cutting a little close to time, so we'll
Yeah,
do one last question here, and
sure.
probably the most important one anyways is what do you hope people take away from music from Texas King?
I'm a positive kind of guy, or I try to be, as much as I possibly can. I would say that if there's a story that Jordan's telling that can vibe with you, that helps you get some clarity on life, um, then that is like a great goal. And if you're coming to see us live, and whether you're having a good day or a bad day, we hope to make that better and give you a good show. And some, because man, I just saw Shania Twain last night, and I feel amazing today.
Oh yeah.
So I would hope to do that same sort of thing, um, for somebody else that other musicians have done for me. You know, that's the reason why we do this stuff, is to keep passing along the torch and, you know, have it, you know, we only got so much time here, so let's have some fun.
100%. Oh, I think that's a
Yeah.
pretty good way to put it for sure.
Thanks, man.
So we're gonna call it now, but we can definitely have another conversation. I'm sure I'd love to catch up and learn a bit more. And we're gonna make sure we link everything to the description, you know, website, socials, whatever we can find, and get everyone listening to Texas King with the new EP and just kind of jamming out to some new music.
Awesome. Yeah. Well, thank you very much for having, you know, having Texas King come on the show.
Hmm.
And this is my first interview, so I appreciate you having me out.
Yeah, for
So
sure. And like I said, we'll do it again because I'm sure there's a lot more we can talk about.
Yeah, absolutely, man. There's always things to talk about. So, and good luck with everything you've got going on with your next interview and hidden beats in general.
Appreciate it. We're actually dropping a clothing line at the end of this month, so that's
Woo!
actually some of the hats I got back here. There's a few samples I've been working on.
No way.
Yeah,
That's pretty cool. Okay. Hey, that's awesome. Well, best of luck on that. You know, that's a great way to get the brand out there.
exactly.
Yeah.
All right. You enjoy the rest of your day, and we'll stay connected.
Yep. Sounds good, Tom. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Have a good one.
Yeah.